Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Here again with Balling Down South, Ron Wallace, here with another episode of an interview. And today I can tell you we have a Sun Belt head football coach on today. He's no beginner here to the coaching realm in college football. He's been in several different positions at college football. His last stint was at West Virginia. I can tell you he's down in the South. The Sun Belt Conference is definitely a very good conference to play in. Let me bring you on and introduce the head football coach at Texas State, Jake Spavital. How you doing, Coach?
Doing well. How you doing?
Pretty good, Coach. We got some sunny weather out here today, pretty much all this week.
Yeah, it's looking good. We've got our kids back on campus right now, and I think they're just enjoying being back and actually getting out there and working out in some pretty good weather right now.
Well, how's the family doing? With this pandemic going on, is everybody at the house pretty good?
Everybody's good. I think my wife's ready for football season to get going and get me out of the house, get this pandemic over. But I got a 1 and a 2-year-old. Got to spend a lot of quality time with them. Probably changed more diapers than I'd like to change, but the family's good, and I think we're just all ready to get this thing back on track again.
Yeah, I think you and everybody else in the football realm in any sports that's in the fall. So what are some of the guidelines? Well, before we get into the COVID thing, I want you to go ahead and talk about some of your history coming up through the coaching ranks when you were in college and then where you are now there at Texas State.
So I started off at Southwest Missouri State as that's where I played football. Was kind of a student coach in my last years there, and ended up having an opportunity to go and be a graduate assistant at the University of Tulsa for Gus Malzahn and Todd Graham.
Wow.
I come from a family of coaches. My grandfather was a head coach in the Canadian League, and Joe Namath quarterback coach with the Jets and the 49ers, and was all through the USFL and the World Football League. And my dad's been all over the country coaching as well. He was a high school head football coach in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. And that was kind of how I got into it, and where I got back to the University of Tulsa, where Gus Malzahn was, as that was where my hometown was. And was fortunate to be there, and we had success there. We were the number one offense in the country, and Gus ended up getting the Auburn offensive coordinator job, and I had some options to kind of expand my network at that point. And my brother was at the University of Houston at the time, working for Kevin Sumlin and working with Cliff Kingsbury and Dana Holgerson, and had an opportunity to go down there and be a graduate assistant. And I ended up really moving in with Dana and Cliff, and it kind of took off from there. Had a great year at University of Houston. We were the number one offense in the country there, which led Dana to be the offense coordinator at Oklahoma State. So I went to Oklahoma State with him, and we had success at Oklahoma State, which brought me to West Virginia. That's when Dana became the first. That was his first head coaching job. Was at West Virginia in 2011. So I got to go and spend 2 years there. And Texas A&M was where Kevin Sumlin was, and Cliff Kingsbury. And Cliff got the head coaching job at Texas Tech, which allowed me the opportunity to get my first offensive coordinator job at Texas A&M in 2013. And from there, I went 3 years at Texas A&M, and I went to Cal Berkeley for a year in 2016. And then I went back to West Virginia for 2 years, and now I'm here at Texas State as the head coach. So it's been a long ride in a very short time. A lot of different cities. I moved my wife. Surprised she's still with me on this one. I've moved her in 3 different cities in 5 years, and but everything works out for a reason. That's what brought me here to Texas State, and really enjoying my time, and I really like the direction that this team's going right now.
Well, I guess you probably didn't have to pull up too many roots, coming from Texas A&M, and you right there at Texas State, still in the state. So your wife probably was a little bit happy about that.
Exactly. I didn't have to go far.
Well, talk about Texas State. How are you guys dealing with the pandemic? You just got your guys back on campus and stuff like that, and talk about some of the things that positive things that happened last season.
Yeah, it's been a unique time for everybody, obviously. So, we've got the kids back in. We decided to bring them in on June 1st in a small capacity. We were bringing them in and around about it was about 55 kids that we brought in, and we've been kind of going through just the testing phases. Everything was in sets of 10. We were just a little bit curious on how things were going to work, and that's why we kind of brought in half of our team. You go through the temperature checks and the symptom protocols, the symptom checklist, and the thing is we can't use our facility except for the weight room. So we're not in the locker rooms. They're in a changing tent outside. They do one loop. They go into that tent, they change, and then we can move them in by really one at a time into the weight room. They get to the rack, and they're on that rack the entire time. And there's a lot of safety, protocols that we do, disinfecting. And after anybody goes into a room or uses a weight or just touches anything, we disinfect it, and we have a 30-minute wait period, and then the next guy comes in. And I think it's gone very smooth right now, just based off of just all the unknowns. But you talk about where we were at as a team, and last year, first year, had 22 seniors, a lot of guys that we had some unknowns about and didn't know much about. So it was good for us to go through that season, kind of figure out the lay of the land and who we're going to be. And we've had a really good off season in recruiting. We brought in, when it's all said and done, it's going to be 46 new players on our roster.
Wow.
And that's a lot. And we got, we made a lot of strides in that January, February, and March, where we got 5 spring practices in with them. So we at least have an identity and a direction on who we're going to lean on moving forward. So that was comforting for me, to at least to know where we're at and where we stand as a program. And right now it's been the focus on the student athlete health and wellness, and making sure we're doing all the protocols and the guidelines and everything of that nature until so we can make sure that this season starts on time. But again, it's a ton of moving parts. It's a lot of things that make you uncomfortable, and there's a lot of things that you probably disagree with. But these are just the rules and protocols that we've got to abide by, and you listen to the health professionals. And the guidelines and the rules change daily, so you just adapt on the run. And I've really enjoyed working with this entire university throughout these protocols and these guidelines, and just trying to figure out how to do it the right way and make sure that we stay on track and do the right things.
Well, I know that coming out of from Texas, staying in Texas, from Texas A&M coming to Texas State. How do you think in this team that you have now pretty much is your recruiting class and stuff of that nature? What are some of the kids that you now have added to your roster coming in that you think that can help out Texas State this season?
Yeah, and that was kind of our plan was, you're going to lose. We had 22 seniors, and that's a lot. And we had to fill some voids, and we couldn't bring in, just, 45 freshmen. It had to be a lot of transfers, experience. We had a lot of discussions at every single position group of, we at least had those 5 practices to identify if we can win with those certain types of players. And then we went and got, more experience in certain areas. And then if there was a position that we were happy with, then we brought in a developmental kid. And those were the conversations that we've had. I thought that going through the spring, we brought in, an Arizona State running back and an Oklahoma State running back that I think will be, add a lot of great depth to our position, to that position right there. We have a Memphis transfer and Brady McBride at quarterback that's going to come in and compete. And I thought that our defensive backs brought in Iowa State DB and a couple junior college kids as well. I think we've added a lot of length. Still waiting on getting 2 of our transfer D-line that I think will be junior college kids. Will add to the depth there. You talk about our offensive line. We've got a University of Texas grad transfer and a University of Arkansas transfer as well. And we added 2 more junior college transfers, and we added 3 high school kids there. So I think that we've done a pretty good job at identifying where our weaknesses are. We're still not where we want to be, but I see the strides that we're making. I see that we're building a program. We're looking through all the ins and outs of everything we do to make sure that we're doing it the right way. And I'm just pleased with the staff, how we've all worked together. It takes there's a lot of moving parts of that as well. You look at just our compliance officers and just our admissions requirements. For them to bring in around 46 players, there's been a lot of work by a lot of people, and just we all know that we're on the same page, and we got to keep bringing in guys to try to flip this program.
So, what are some of the heavy hitters you guys have on your schedule this coming season?
So we open up with SMU at home, which I think that is going to be a solid game. You know, they came off a great season. I worked for Sonny Dykes at Cal, so I think that's going to be a pretty fun game. You know, my offensive coordinator came from this, who was with me at Cal as well. His name's Jacob Peeler. So we've got a lot of ties with Sonny Dykes on this staff, and I think we're all going to be pretty fired up to just see each other and go out there and play. So, but it's a tough, it's a good schedule. Like you have SMU, we have Ohio, who's predicted to win the MAC. You know, that's going to be a tough non-conference game. But you just look at where the Sun Belt League is, and just going through it in a year, and at least seeing where we compare to, and that's one of the reasons why we brought in a lot of transfers too, is because we needed some guys that will be able to compete versus the talent in the Sun Belt. And you look at what App State's doing in Louisiana, and there's a lot of just great programs that I've really enjoyed this league. So you know, we got a tough schedule ahead of us in this league because it's highly competitive. But when you throw in SMU and Ohio, you know, that always is going to make it fun as well.
Well, Coach, I can tell you this: we got to get you down here in the Mobile area, man. Because come get South Alabama can't get all these kids.
Yeah, I know. I think that that is a hot spot of athletes right there. You know, we always at A&M we talked about always going through there, but our issue when we were at A&M, and that's you know, we were the farthest Western school in the SEC, so it's tough to go east when you're at A&M and compete versus Auburn and Alabama and really all those great SEC programs. So we spent our time west, but we went in there early, and when there's a ton of great talent in that area. But man, they're tough to get because there's a lot of people coming in there trying to pull them out too.
Now I can tell you this. So, how have it when with the kids coming in, having to go through all the protocols and stuff of that nature? How has their attitude been towards? I mean, are they some of them not? I'm very sure they probably it's uncomfortable until they get used to it. Because I mean, this is probably going to be with us for a while. Nobody knows. But how have they been, taking the changes?
Yeah, I've had a lot of dialogue with them, a lot of expectations, just telling them that it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be things that they disagree with, but we have to work through it. And we hope that the medical professionals and we get more information on it, and things change as it goes. But you know, it's hilarious when you have 18 to 22-year olds and they're trying to practice social distancing. It's like herding cats. You know, you're just they're all over the place. They haven't seen each other in like 3 months, and you gotta you're staying on them to make sure that they're practicing the guidelines. When they're lifting, like when they're outside, they don't have to use a mask, but when they're inside, we have them wear the mask, and they have trouble lifting with that. And you try your best. You try to stay on them, but the thing is we've thought through it all. We work through the protocols. We talk about the disinfecting, and we tell them why we have to do this. And whenever I can gather more information, then I'll give it to them and explain the why we do things. And it's there's some things that I sit there and I go, I don't understand. Like I don't understand why we change in a changing tent right now instead of using our locker room in small amounts. There's just a lot unknown, but you just listen to the medical professionals and you just follow their advice and their rules.
Well, one last question, Coach. If a kid wanted to come play for your program, what do you look for in a kid, outside of the field, if you think they can play for your program?
One of the biggest things I look for is if they're winners. Like I do like the whole multiple sport. Like I love how what players that play a lot of different sports, but I look at if they win. Because
Right.
this is a program that hasn't won in a while, and and I'm a big believer that winning is contagious, and if you bring in guys that know how to win and know the work that it entails and the team camaraderie and everything that goes into it. That's the thing I look for. Really, the first thing in first trade is, are they part of a winning program? Do they love to compete? Do they like to play football?
Well, I can tell you this: we got some down here for you, but I'm pretty sure some a lot of them across the country. We definitely thank you for coming on the network today, Coach. And anytime you
Yeah,
want to come on, have your people reach out. We'll get you on. We'll talk some football or whatever you got going. We'll have you on.
for sure, man. I
All
appreciate
right.
you having me on. I got to get down there and you got to show me around a little bit too.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Texas State head football coach Jake Spavital. Thank you for coming on, Coach.
I appreciate you. Talk soon.